Welcome to the ProtoArt. Be sure to like and subscribe for new content. What's up, y'all? So Diffusionbee just dropped a brand new update. If you haven't already, download it from the link I'll provide below. So under the Models tab now, you'll see the Juggernaut XL, Blue Pencil XL, Reviz XL, and the base model XL for Stable Diffusion. Each one has its own strength. It says below what they kind of are idealistic for. So you have the Reviz XL, which is wonderful for realistic looking stuff. So if you're doing like photography or portraiture, there you go. If you want more anime and cartoon styles, try out the Blue Pencil XL model. Juggernaut XL is just kind of all encompassing. But the stuff I'm excited about is this. Under inpainting, AI canvas, image to image, and text to image, you'll now notice that there's a brand new tab that says generation style. So with this, there's a whole bunch of styles you can pick and choose from. So before, when you first got into Stable Diffusion, if you're brand new here, if you just get into Stable Diffusion, back in the day, they used to have these individual models you had to download. So if you wanted something to look like origami, if you wanted something to look like a comic book or anime, there were individual models that had that look, and you had to download those specifically. Now Diffusionbee has that all set for you, so don't really need those models if you don't want. But they are there for you. But they're all here too in Diffusionbee. So most of the basic ones that people looked for when they first got into the stuff are here for you. And how that works, I'm actually running a little experiment here. So I'm using the same prompt. I've tried this once with the little rhino prompt, which I'll show you in a second. I'll kind of jump back and forth between that and this, just to see what they look like. So I had a very simple prompt, the Mona Lisa detailed face. So Diffusionbee now has its own little base model, which it will prompt you to install when you first get this thing going. And it's not the default Stable Diffusion 1.5, it's its own thing, which actually produces pretty decent looking images here. So I have the Mona Lisa, and it turned out pretty good. But you'll also notice here, now you'll have the prompt and the model that was used to make that image. So that's wonderful too. If you're trying to just quickly scroll through and see which model did they use to make this thing, it's all there for you. So the first style that I picked, I scrolled down and kind of did this in reverse order, was this pencil sketch drawing. And it's a good thing to also keep in mind when you're prompting, try not to have something that will conflict with the style that you're picking. So this is a pencil drawing, so you probably don't want to have a negative prompt that has grayscale or monochromatic or black and white, because that tends to also be in with the look of a pencil drawing. I wanted to kind of experiment to see if it really affected it. It didn't for this example, but I can see how that can be problematic with other ones. But yeah, so this is the pencil look. And the test I did with my baby rhino one turned out pretty good too with the pencil look. As you can see, same kind of style, the black and white look, and it captured a lot of detail with this thing. Next was the logo design. What this tends to do is add very bold, solid colors. So you'll get these very thick lines. Sometimes you'll get this little white outline around stuff, and even sometimes it throws some text in there. But it gives you what essentially would be a logo for something. So if you're trying to come up with a t-shirt design, a logo for your company or a client, this is a good place to start. Now it doesn't always work 100%. So this was the Mona Lisa example. It gave me bold, thick lines, and it also gave me an outline. It tends to do this too, is sometimes it'll give you like a shape, which is, pretty popular when you're creating a logo, but it doesn't always work. Like, it lost features in her face, and it gave me some weird little lines here by the hair. So yeah, so this was the logo design style, and it could be wonderful if you're creating something for yourself, for a client, or just want to experiment with the idea you had in mind. Again, I did this in reverse order. So up next was the retro game style. So this was the look that it produced. It tends to give me the similar color palette, at least from the experiments I've done. This is that same style selected for the baby rhino prompt. I love this little one right here, but yeah, it kind of gives me this similar color palette. Not bad. I don't know if I'd really use this too much myself, but I can see how this can be useful for people when they're trying to create some really retro looking stuff. After that was the vaporwave. I'm sure you've seen plenty of art in this kind of style floating around here. It'll give you some very colorful artwork with very contrasting colors. I love this one in the middle here. I don't know why. It's amazing. But anyway, so this is kind of the vaporwave look, and it did really well with this, but my poor little Mona Lisa here didn't quite turn out so well with that vaporwave style. And again, it will help to have more details in your prompt, but I just wanted to, show you what it will do out the box, again, with just all default stuff. So, it could use some work. but you kind of get an idea for the bright colors and how that actually plays a part in the prompt and the generation there. But following that was this really cool doodle art look, which gave me some really interesting little line work here. I would probably use this as like a base and send this to like image to image and then tweak the prompt, or even in painting and kind of paint away certain areas I don't like. But I can see how this can be like a good starting point, at least in my workflow. You can use it however you want to, but yeah, this is the doodle style look. And my Rhino turned out a lot more cartoony than the Mona Lisa, but it it really looks fun to me. It looks like vector art more so than anything, but it still looks good. I can't knock it. I can see how this can be very useful, even sending this little guy here to the image to image or something and tweaking it a bit there using different prompts and styles. Following that was this dark fantasy style, which tends to give you very, as it says, dark colors and very dreary and eerie kind of feeling to it. Like there's heavy shadows, and sometimes it'll give you really dark borders, and it's just really good when you're creating like spooky kind of stuff. I would use this model. And here was the example of the same style, but with the Rhino prompt. You can see that like dark border around there. This one kind of gave it more of like a misty environment. So if you're creating like horror themed artwork or something just dark, try out this style, because it might actually give that design or that prompt that extra little push it needs. Following that was the color pencil model, which for the Rhino example turned out pretty good, because it does actually give you the texture of like actual color pencils if you were trying to paint. Of course, this would help if you increase the overall image size and resolution. It will probably bump this up a bit, but I'd say overall it does kind of create a really cool color pencil. I love this. Really cool color pencil look. Yeah, I like it. So the Mona Lisa one, I don't know if it really did it justice as far as like the texture. It did give me like the border of an actual like piece of paper, it looks like, if you're like drawing this on a piece of paper. But you can see it will take a little bit of tweaking to get your prompt to kind of follow that look, follow that style. So I'd probably also include, what this is in the prompt itself. So color pencil art, that's the style. I'd probably also include that in the prompt somewhere, like a colored pencil drawing, just so it really emphasizes what it is. Following that was a psychedelic art. Again, the Mona Lisa is just suffering here, but it is very vibrant, very colorful. I don't know if I'd really call this psychedelic. It needs a little bit more tweaking, but you kind of get an idea for how colorful it could be. The baby Rhino kind of gives you a better idea of what that actually looks like. It's very, very colorful, very vibrant. It's just swirls and swirls of colors. My little poor Rhino, but it kept giving it like extra eyes. If you're creating some really fun art for like a logo, for a t-shirt design, I would try this one out as well, as it will really take your art to that next level. Following the psychedelic art was the impressionist art, which I really thought the Mona Lisa would stand out here, and I feel like it had potential. I don't know what happened here. I think it was trying to give me like a highlight from like a canvas here or something. It didn't quite come through how I hoped it would though. I would try this out with a different model. For example, one of the XL models, and trying out one of these styles and just seeing how much it really influences it, because being that those tend to be a lot more detailed, especially like the photorealistic one or something, it might really make the details pop and have it really look like a painting. So this was the impressionist art from Mona Lisa, and this was the impressionist art for my little baby Rhino. So I don't know if I'd call this impressionist art myself personally, at least this particular result. It doesn't really match that style for me. It does look cool though, and I absolutely I love this little one. I might make this the thumbnail. It's just too cute. Anyway, so that was the impressionist art style. So the adorable 3D character didn't really do too much for my Mona Lisa example, but for my adorable 3D character baby Rhino, it knocked it out the park for the first one at least. Yeah, I don't know how I would use this in my workflow, but if you're trying to create like mock-ups of something, so maybe you want to make like a mock-up of like a shoe design or something, or like a product design, perhaps a bottle, energy drink, coffee, whatever it may be, maybe try this model out, because it might get you halfway there as far as the overall look, and then you can use some in-painting perhaps to add your extra little details there. And if you want, you can kind of fine-tune it a bit in external programs to add like text and stuff, because currently text tends to be problematic, which, with whatever app you're using, text still is probably like the final frontier. But I would use this for like product design personally in my own workflow. After that is this dystopian style, which gives you this, as you see, like a destroyed city in the background. It kind of gives you like the similar to the other one with the dark kind of look. It gives you this really eerie, kind of dark and dreary look. And I don't know what happened with my poor little rhino's face here. It kind of turned it to more like, I don't know. This guy's seen some stuff, is all I'm saying. Like, he's been through it. But anyway, so that was the dystopian one for the rhino. The Mona Lisa, it didn't give me a crazy background anything, but it did kind of, I feel like it made the colors darker. I don't know, maybe I'm tripping. It feels more, I wouldn't say muted, it just it just feels darker. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it didn't change like facial expressions or anything like that. It just feels like the color tends to, for this example, was a lot darker. But yeah, these are the dystopian style one, which is, where is this thing at? It's near the bottom. But yeah, the dystopian. Moving right along, we have the watercolor look, which I feel like it did pretty good with the background, at least with Mona Lisa. It kind of gave me a similar texture to watercolor. So I would personally probably get a model that has that watercolor look, which I have some on my own Civic AI account. If you haven't checked those out, go ahead and do that now. But I'd get a watercolor model and then also try this one out, because it might kind of just help add that extra little bit of detail you're looking for. But yeah, so the watercolor, nice vibrant colors, and let's see what it looks like for the rhino. So for the baby rhino example, at least with the texture with the watercolor, you really do get more of that look. Like in the shadows and the highlights, really you kind of see the contrast of how like water really would dry and kind of blend together. Again, I would, and especially here, like this looks wonderful. That's pretty close to how it actually would look when it dries. But I would, again, get a watercolor model, which I have on my Civic AI, and then try it out with that style to kind of really emphasize the look. But yeah, you can see how it really can reproduce that style. Following that one is the vector art look, which is what it says it is. It creates vector art style illustrations, and like honestly, this one looks pretty cool. Like, it looks similar to the logo style, minus like the thick bold outline. But if you're looking for like a clean art look, perhaps if you're coming up with like graphics for presentations or school, this might be the way to go. If you're not trying to create like a whole brand logo, like if you just want to create some really clean vector art, try out this style and see if it gives it that extra bit of detail you've been missing. I really love what it did with the Mona Lisa on the second one. Like, I think this one's cool right out the box. I would probably add that thick bold line that you saw in the logo design myself. Like, I'd probably take this into Procreate or Photoshop or something, or you could probably even do it within here, like the AI canvas, and kind of paint like a thick white outline or something to make it look like a sticker, or even prompt it, But I really like how it really did create a really cool vector art look with this. Like, I feel like it knocked it out the park with the Mona Lisa. First one, I would probably still go in and tweak it a bit, just to kind of clean it up. But I really like the second look. So again, with anything, I'd run a lot of different variations. So I'd probably have like 50 of these images, pick the one I like, and then after I find the one I like, send it to the upscaler or upscale it in the method I showed you in a previous video to really bring out the details. Following that one is the silhouette art, which gives you really, really contrasting shadows, or tones, I should say, and like really, really heavy shadows. So if that's the look you're going for, I'd probably try this style out. You can see here, it really just blew out the image though. You have really, really harsh highlights. The skin looks all crazy. But with my little baby rhino, the first and the third example didn't really do what I wanted to do, but I feel like the second one actually was getting there. Like, you do get the overall shape of the rhino. I don't know what happened in the ear here, so you probably have to go in, copy that over. But you do get enough information to know that this is a horn. I'd probably go in, add a little line there for the glasses. I can see how you can utilize this to create logos and thumbnails for something. I can see this being for like a brand design. You add your text into there, and your logo's like halfway there. So there's a few of these I can see like how I would use these right from the start, and like how they can be very, very powerful tools in your workflow. So try out the silhouette art. Again, if you're trying to create like a logo or a brand icon, like this might be a really cool way to go and get started with that. And again, I'd run a whole bunch of these images, find the ones you like, and just kind of go from there. Following that was this texture one, and I didn't know what it was going to look like, and it my poor little rhino is suffering here, yo. I don't know what happened to his face here, but face looks crazy. This dude's been through like I don't know, man. I don't know what happened to his face. Second one, like this guy is serious. You haven't returned your book to his library in years, and he's just upset with you. I don't know what happened with the third one. I got no words, but the Mona Lisa feels like it's a internet meme. So she's real serious, and then zooms in on her face, and she's intense, and she's like, "Yo." I don't know what's going on in his face, man. Why it's so close? I am scared. That look is a mixture of like this subtle smile happening there. It's just like it will haunt your dreams. But I don't know. The texture one's interesting though. It gave like a weird pattern on her head in this one, and I don't know why this face is so zoomed in on here, but yeah, this is the texture look. I gotta keep experimenting with this particular style, because I don't know how I would use this in my own workflow, but I just wanted to show you two examples of how this could look. Following this was the pixel art, and I don't know what happened with the poor little Mona Lisa in this. It didn't quite give me pixel art, but on my little baby rhino, it knocked it out the park. So you do see how it really can give you this really cool pixel style art if this is the kind of thing you're going for. If you're creating sprites for a video game, if you're creating a little pixel art for whatever, you know, if it's a thumbnail for something, go for it. But I can see how this can be useful for a litany of things. I don't really create, you know, pixel art all like that, but I have tried to in the past doing this manually, and it's a pain. I know there's like Photoshop actions you can use to create similar things, but now you don't need that. You can just generate an image right out the box in Diffusionbee and have it looking pretty cool. And again, you can always upscale this a bit and try to make it look a little cleaner if you want to. But yeah, this is the pixel art style that comes with Diffusionbee. Up next is the photographic style, and I would probably compile this with like the Reviz XL model, since it's already super realistic. On top of that, having this style thing active will probably make it look as realistic as you can get with Stable Diffusion currently, honestly. And with the right prompt, oof, like it's gonna look amazing. But yes, so since this is super simple, I didn't add too much to it. I like how this one's waving. It could be better. And with the Mona Lisa, it separated her from the background. You can kind of see where it's trying to, you know, I don't know what it's trying to do, honestly, but it made the background out of focus, and her, you know, her more in focus, even though her face was a bit blurry here. But yeah, I don't know, for Mona Lisa, like this whole trial run with her, girl's been suffering. So this was the photographic example though with Mona Lisa. Following that was the origami. It didn't really give me the origami look in here, and for the rhino, again, of course it knocked it out the park. It made it look how I expected an origami object to look, and I just need to increase like how much to focus on the prompt. But I think adding again the style in the prompt would definitely help the overall image here. But yeah, here's the origami style with a rhino. The first one looks kind of rhino-esque, but not quite there. Following that is the neon punk, and I really like this look. It kind of similar to like the synthwave look for me, at least. But I just think like Blade Runner or like some futuristic kind of thing there. I'd probably have this as a style honestly, in my little workflow. And this was the neon punk with the Mona Lisa, which you can see the color influence, even with the one that looks more like her, is definitely there in the background. And the first image that it generated changed her face, changed the position of her head, and had this really cool color scheme, but it doesn't really look like the Mona Lisa. But you can kind of see how like the color influence is there. So if you want to try something different and create some really fun iconic images in different styles, very vibrant colors, try this one out. Try like Marilyn Monroe, and try like, you know, Betty Page, or, you know, whoever, Michael Jackson, and just to kind of see what it would look like, you know. Following that is this low poly design, which I thought did wonderful with Mona Lisa. It kept her look overall, it kept the positioning of her head, the overall shape, and it really did give you this really cool low poly look. It gave you this really sharp jagged edges. It looks like if you were to make this in any 3D program, honestly, like especially with the second example here, like it looks like a low poly Mona Lisa. I like really love what it did with the texture here, with her clothing, and especially the hair right here too is really cool. With my Rhino, looks like something that you would find as a downloadable asset to 3D print. And being how technology is evolving so fast, and we're getting really close to the point where you can create some really nice resolution 3D images from a 2D image, this might be a really useful tool in your workflow. So you can generate a 2D image that looks like a low poly design like this, 3D print this bad boy, you know, throw it in whatever app that can turn this to a 3D model, 3D print this thing, and have some fun item to either, you know, give away, sell, whatever you want to do with it. But I really like the first generation from this. It looks like a really cool low poly Rhino. And I can also see how this could be used for, you know, branding, marketing, for those out there who use this tool for that and not necessarily just specifically for art stuff. I can see how this can be utilized to kind of emphasize your branding. The one I really love, because I'm a big art nerd and I love drawing a ton, and I wish I had this tool when I was just learning to draw, because oh my god, this would have saved me so much time, is the line art one. So for me, it was always like, how do I break down this design? Like, how do I know what shape to use? How would this look as just a drawing? Now you can kind of do that out the box. All you need to do is select the line art and your prompt, and boom, you have a line art version of it. So, you know, adding the, you know, tweaking this a bit more would definitely help, like having the camera angle, you know, positioning, all that's going to play a big factor in your overall image at the end. Because the first one doesn't look like line art really, but yeah, the second one, boom, this is the look right here. You know, from here I would have enough information and know, oh, this is a Rhino. You can create coloring books. You know, if you want to create something for either selling, or if you have kids and you want to create your own like custom coloring book for them, great way to do that. If you want to just create some really simple line art look for a design, for a logo, or even transferring, like I imagine if you go to image and you want to create that image in a line art style, which I'll have a video on, you can use this tool to do that as well. So line art, powerful tool. And back to the Mona Lisa, it didn't really give me the line art look, and it got a little frustrating. Like it was so close. Like I can see it was starting to kind of analyze it on the second one here. It gave me like this outline again. I can see this little border happening with a head. But yeah, it didn't give me the line art look. So up next was this isometric style. And I really love the border on the one to the right. And I love the color scheme on the one to the left. So I would probably combine these, honestly, either using like Procreate or Photoshop, because I'm just really familiar with those apps, and like kind of cut and paste these two together. But that's just me personally. But yeah, this is the Mona Lisa in that style. And then this was the Rhino in that style. So you can kind of see how this style affects the prompt. And again, these are very, very simple prompts. They both gave me this same little direction here. So you'll probably see this a lot with like architecture examples I've seen, I should say, on Civet AI. I saw a lot of like designs with like small villages, and I mean there were some characters that people have used this for, but I say a majority of the examples I saw were like with objects and environments. But yeah, you can see how this would be kind of a fun tool again if you're creating like video game assets or something like that. Boom. This is a good starting point to get you going there. After that, we have our fantasy art art style. And you can see it just gives you this really fun look. So for me, I love this like weird double eye, even though it's not supposed to be there. I kind of love the look of this. But for me, it kind of gives me like Mid-Journey vibes a little bit just out the box. And again, this isn't with an Excel model or anything specific for this kind of art style. So just imagine having one of those and this thing, man. But yeah, so it gives you this really cool look of environments. Like this looks like a poster or something already. So you can always upscale this. Me being a big nerd I am, I would probably cut this out and just give it a weird environment and some weird futuristic alien world, or even do some outpainting and just kind of creating some weird stuff with this. But yeah, that was the Rhino one with the fantasy art. And then the Mona Lisa, even she looks like she's like, I'm over this. Just looking to the other direction. Notice every other image, she's looking at us. But yeah, with the fantasy art, she just was not feeling it. It did change the border around her on the second one quite a bit there. But yeah, I don't see a heavy influence with this, at least with Mona Lisa. But yeah, that's the fantasy art. Up next was Enhance. And I didn't really see anything that it really did with Mona Lisa other than giving her like the GoldenEye big head cheat code. And with the Baby Rhino one, it just kind of made it look more realistic. So I guess that's what the look does, is makes it look more detailed. Even though it gave it weird 4 eyes on this one for some reason. But yeah, try this out with the realistic XL models, Reviz and the Juggernaut one, and see what that can produce. The digital art one started giving me weird chimera looking rhinos and other creatures when I tried this previously. But yeah, I thought this one was like nightmare fuel and also amazing at the same time. It just looks like some really fun kind of character there. So I could definitely use this as a reference image. Again, how I would use this stuff is just a guide for me for my regular paintings or drawings. I have no idea if someone told me to draw like a baby rhino, but as an actual baby, where to start. Boom, now I have a reference. This is potentially how it could look. And then with the Mona Lisa, with the digital art, it didn't do too much of a change as far as like background stuff with this first example. Yeah, and it kind of started to a little bit with the second one. I don't know what's happening here. There's like this weird like structure thing going on here. So I would run this quite a few more times and see what weird things it started developing. But again, I'm just trying to keep this video as short as I can. I know it's a lot to cover, but it turned out okay. But I would definitely run this a lot more to get some more dramatic examples here. Up next was the craft clay, and for the Mona Lisa, it really didn't do too much other than give me like interesting vector art color for clothing on this one. But it honestly kind of gave me more of like a, I don't know, like a photo border or frame, which I thought was kind of interesting. Going back to the little baby rhino, this is kind of more what I was expecting, and this is kind of the examples I see more often. It makes it look like a little clay thing. So here's a little clay rhino. Isn't that cute? And look at the face on this one. Oh my god, look at the face. But yeah, it makes it look like a really cool clay sculpture. So for my sculptors out there, whether you're using 3D or traditional art and wanting to sculpt some stuff, but have no idea how it could potentially look, maybe try this out and it'll give you like a good reference. Like, how would you sculpt a baby rhino? I don't know. Maybe like this? Okay. So I can see for my designers or, you know, people who like making figurines or toys or whatever it may be, this could be a good reference for you guys for 3D stuff and sculptures. I probably would use this either with clay or even like wood carvings. Like it would give me like a good idea how I can like carve away material and what structures to kind of leave intact. But yeah, try this out. We're nearing the end here, but this is the comic book look which I absolutely love, and I can see how people can use this to make their own little comics and stories, or just regular graphic designs. I don't know what is happening here, but I really love the first one. Look at this cool dude. I love the glasses, but yes, comic book action lines and everything. The Mona Lisa, however, didn't quite give me the comic book look I was expecting. It would probably take a little more tweaking. Again, I have the most simple prompt and it's not really detailed, so it doesn't have a lot to work with. So it's more on me than the style itself. I should emphasize that a lot. With most of these, it's more that the prompt isn't that detailed. But yeah, so zoomed in a lot on her face here. I'm not getting comic book vibes from this at all, but again, that's more of my prompt and not the image itself. Without looking at the name, can you tell what this is supposed to be? Cinematic. So this gave me more of like a vintage look for sure. I don't know if I'd call this cinematic. I would almost like sepia tone in the first one, which is kind of interesting. But I really like the border on here. It's very kind of a fun little pattern detail thing going on there. However, you can see it could be very, very, very different. So here's the cinematic baby rhino. Not a whole lot going on other than very soft focus background. You'll see it's like very, very blurred. So I would kind of maybe combine this with more photography kind of designs, or hyper realistic looking stuff like this if you're doing portraiture. If you want to have that like really soft bokeh effect, you can see you can achieve that with this. It's like photography, portraiture, and realistic looking stuff. We're nearing the end here, but this is the anime style, and it started to make Mona Lisa look a little anime-ish. A little bit more cartoony. Not quite there yet. There's it's not giving me full anime vibes, but you can see how it's kind of changing her face quite a bit to look a little bit more like a cartoon. And we can see my little example with the baby rhino. Definitely got more anime with the first one, even though it's more like a hybrid chimera thing. I would say the second example kind of more along the lines there of what I was thinking, more like cartoony anime vibe. This one, I don't know if I'd call this anime at all. I wouldn't call this anime, but it's interesting looking. But you can see how you can achieve potentially some anime look with that style. And I would, again, run a ton of images, pick and choose the one that you like the most. You have analog film, which again gave me this like weird chimera looking babies. And then this looks more like a little dog to me, but it's a baby rhino. Look at those little Harry Potter glasses. And this was the analog film from our Mona Lisa. And it just kind of blew out the colors. I just did not really love the look for it. And I'll run this entire experiment one more time, shut up and just show you guys. But I kind of want to just go through all these styles just to show you what it looks like. And then last but not least, in this set was the 3D Mona Lisa. And it didn't really give me 3D vibes at all. But the baby rhino one, not getting 3D vibes from it at all either. Like maybe the second one, these not so much. So I ran everything one more time, and with the blue pencil XL model. So I'll kind of speed run through this. So this was the 3D model style. This was the analog film. This is their anime, cinematic, comic book. This is kind of more what I was expecting with the crafty clay style. This is digital art, enhanced, which again, I don't see a major difference, but this was the fantasy art. This looks really cool. Kind of changed the overall look of Mona Lisa, but I like it kept the framing, it kept like all the basics of it, but just changed her look. This was the isometric line art. It kind of got rid of the frame though. This was the low poly design, or the style. This is the was it neon punk? And the creepy little background images are wonderful. Let's see here. This is the origami, and this is what I was expecting, from the other one. But these are the perks of having the XL models. They just tend to have a lot more detail, but they do run slower because it's just the nature of the model. Photographic, interesting. It made it like a painting in a museum or something. You see people in the background. The pixel art, texture, it's really cool. It made like a little kind of like bricks or something. I'm not sure what material that's supposed to be, but It has texture. This is a silhouette art one. I'm not really getting silhouette. It just kind of looks like a desaturated vector art or something, but still looks cool. And this was the vector art. Again, it kind of got rid of the frame, but it didn't look bad. This is the watercolor. It has a really nice vibrant color scheme, but I don't see the color the texture from like a watercolor design. So I would probably run this a few more times to get it to actually look like watercolor and add that in the prompt itself. This was the dystopian, and as you saw the previous examples, it did make it like darker, a little desaturated, not as vibrant, just like darker tones. This was the 3D character, or the adorable 3D character, and it does look like a little toy doll or something. Was this the impressionist art? Well, it's more digital art, but you know, okay. And this was the psychedelic art. Really like the very colorful design there. Kind of gives me like Starry Night painting kind of vibes. This is the color pencil art. I don't really see color pencil with this one. It still looks cool, but personally I don't think this looks like a color pencil style. This is the dark fantasy. Similar to the other one, just very dark muted colors. Still looks really good though. Doodle art. Looks similar to vector art to me, but very cool detail in the background with like these little swirls. Cool texture. This is the vaporwave. Retro video game. Again with that color scheme, it gives you that very vibrant colors. Logo design. I think from the other examples, those really look more like a logo than this particular example that was generated, but I'm sure with enough generations it'll give you something that's usable. And sketch drawing. So these were all of the styles that you can pick and choose from, and again this was ran through the base model initially and then one of the XL models, the blue pencil model. But I almost left out the most cool part of this whole update. You can now use, let me get real close to the mic. You can now use weighting. Now I'll go over this in depth in the next video, but just to kind of briefly break down what is weighting. So weighting is a way to either add emphasis to a part of your prompt or to kind of pull back from a part of the prompt that you really don't need to focus on so much. You can also do complex things like merge different parts of your prompt together. And I know this is I don't want to overwhelm you too much with this, but just know that there's different ways you can do weighting. You can use parentheses to emphasize a part of a prompt to add more focus on a specific section, a specific word, or you can use brackets to lessen that amount of that prompt. You can also do it numerically with adding actual number values. By default, everything's set to 1. Again, I'll go over this in depth in the next video, but you can also take away some of that emphasis by using numerical values. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video here and talk to you all soon. So be sure to like, subscribe, and let's make some art.